Hey there, and welcome. It's great to have you back. In this video, we talk about Pax Europe, a movement that sees itself as a defender of Western values, but is described by critics as Islamophobic. We take a look at why Pax Europe exists, what its goals are, and who is behind the organization. And we also take a closer look at Michael Stürzenberger and the assassination attempt that nearly cost him his life. Pax Europe, a movement that is causing a stir in Germany and beyond. It calls itself a citizens' movement for the protection of the free democratic basic order and sees its task as educating people about so-called political Islam. But for many observers, Pax Europe stands above all for Islamophobia, right-wing populist rhetoric, and deliberate provocation in the public sphere. In this video, we take a look at why Pax Europe exists, what goals it pursues, who its most important players are, and we take a special look at Michael Stürzenberger, probably the best known representative of the movement, who narrowly escaped a terrible assassination attempt in 2024. The citizens' movement Pax Europa, or BPE for short, was formed in 2008 through the merger of two groups, the original Pax Europa Association and the Federal Association of Citizens Movements. The organization sees itself as a human rights movement that wants to warn of the threat posed by political Islam. According to its own statements, it wants to preserve Western liberal values and the Christian-Jewish culture of Europe. To this end, it organizes rallies, distributes information material, and gives speeches in public places. Critics, on the other hand, accuse the BPE of equating religion with terrorism, defaming Muslims across the board, and deepening social divisions. In several federal states, especially Bavaria, the movement was temporarily monitored by the Office for the Protection of the Constitution. The accusation: Islamophobic tendencies and anti-constitutional aspirations. Although the Federal Association is no longer classified as extremist, the Bavarian State Association and some of its most prominent members remain the focus of the security authorities. Pax Europa thus operates in a field of tension between freedom of expression, criticism of Islam, and the boundary of political extremism. Pax Europa is not based on a clearly hierarchical system, but rather a loose network of activists, speakers, and supporters who are connected by a shared ideology and common themes. Among the most important players are individuals who have shaped the public image of the movement over the years. Michael Stürzenberger is considered the most influential figure in Pax Europa. The former CSU press spokesman and journalist became one of Germany's best-known Islam-critical activists in the 2000s. After the 2008 terrorist attacks in Mumbai, in which an acquaintance of his was killed, his attitude toward Islam became significantly more radical. Stürzenberger describes political Islam as a totalitarian ideology and sees it as a threat to Europe. In numerous speeches, articles, and rallies, he warns against the influence of Islamic organizations and calls for consistent intervention by the state. His opponents see him as an agitator who discredits religious groups across the board. He has been charged and convicted of incitement to hatred on several occasions. Despite, or perhaps because of, these controversies, Stürzenberger has become a symbolic figure for many supporters of the movement. René Stadtkewitz, a former CDU politician and founder of the now defunct party The Freedom, is also an important player in this milieu. He is considered one of Stürzenberger's early political companions and was instrumental in organizing Islam-critical movements in Germany into a political party. His positions emphasize the defense of Western values but reject a multicultural society. Although Stadtkewitz has made fewer public appearances in recent years, his role in the early stages of Pax Europa remains central. Elisabeth Sabatic-Wolf, an Austrian activist and former diplomat, is best known for her sharp criticism of Islam. She gained international notoriety after being convicted in Austria for derogatory statements about the Prophet Muhammad. Sabatic-Wolf has close ties to the European network of Islam-critical groups and has appeared at several Pax Europa events. Her speeches usually focus on the dangers she sees in the increasing Islamization of Europe, and she calls for consistent advocacy of Western values. Another influential member was Susanne Hirzel, one of the last surviving supporters of the White Rose resistance group. In her later years, she became involved with Pax Europa and saw the movement as a continuation of her fight against totalitarian ideologies, this time, as she put it, against political Islam. Her involvement caused controversy, as critics believed she was distorting the historical significance of the resistance against National Socialism by drawing this parallel. Irfan Peci, another well-known name in Pax Europa circles, is a former Islamist who later became a critic of Islam. Peci worked for the German Domestic Intelligence Service for a time and then became an author and speaker. Within the movement, he is seen as proof that Islamic radicalization is real and that education is necessary. His speeches are characterized by personal insights into Islamist structures, which has earned him high regard within the scene. All these individuals contribute to Pax Europa, presenting a complex, sometimes contradictory image. On the one hand, activist, media-savvy and loud. On the other hand, socially controversial and politically isolated. Michael Stürzenberger himself remains the central figure. He embodies what Pax Europa stands for, but also what it is criticized for. His biography is marked by political ruptures. After his time in the CSU, he and like-minded individuals founded the party The Freedom, later disbanded. He then concentrated entirely on Islam-critical educational work, mostly in the form of public rallies, which often led to protests and clashes. On the 31st of May 2024, an attack took place in Mannheim that shook him and his movement. During a rally by the citizens' movement Pax Europa, a 25-year-old Afghan attacked several people with a knife, including Stürzenberger. 5 people were injured, including a police officer who later died from his injuries. The attacker was shot and overpowered by the police. Investigations revealed that it was an Islamist-motivated attack. According to his statements, the perpetrator saw the act as a religious duty. The attack caused nationwide horror. Chancellor Olaf Scholz spoke in the Bundestag of an Islamist terrorist attack, and the Federal Ministry of the Interior included the case in its national security assessment. Michael Stürzenberger survived with serious injuries, had to undergo multiple surgeries, and later reappeared in public. He spoke of an attack on freedom of expression and announced that he would continue his work. For his supporters, he became a kind of symbolic figure for many media outlets. On the other hand, he became an example of the dangerous escalation of social conflicts. The attack in Mannheim was a turning point, not only for Stürzenberger, but for Pax Europa as a whole. The attack brought new attention to the movement, but also exposed it to massive criticism once again. Supporters see it as a necessary voice of enlightenment, while critics warn of a creeping radicalization that pits religious groups against each other. Today, Pax Europa stands at a crossroads. The movement is not a political party, but a network that seeks to exert influence through events, speeches, and social media. Its future depends on whether it can convey its messages without incitement and hold its own in an objective, democratic debate. However, the Stürzenberger case shows how narrow the line between criticism, provocation, and escalation has become. Pax Europe thus remains a symbol of the tensions of our time, between freedom of expression and responsibility, between justified criticism and dangerous simplification. The discussion about the movement will continue between those who see it as a courageous defender of Western values and those who consider it a driver of social division. What is your opinion of Pax Europe? Do you see the movement as an important part of a free landscape of opinion, or rather as a dangerous voice that divides rather than unites? Feel free to write your opinion in the comments below. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more research and analysis, and thank you for staying with us until the end. See you in the next video.